Hey everybody, how's it going? In this video I'm going to talk about how to install lightdm and customize it on Arch Linux. Lightdm, as the name implies, is a very lightweight display manager. It's used in many Linux distributions like Linux Mint, Debian, Raspberry Pi OS, etc. And you can also customize it a lot. You can make the interface totally upside down, and even you have the capacity to install multiple or different themes, which is known as Greeter. So to install it, there is a great page actually on the Arch wiki that you can follow up the instruction there, and it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to follow more or less the same instruction as here, and then once we install it, we are going to customize, and also finally we are going to actually install a different greeter and then even customize that greeter as well. Then if you don't like to use lightdm, feel free to switch to any other display manager. There are a bunch of other display managers, whether they are console based or graphical user interface based. You can actually find the list here. For example, one of the good one in the console based is this one, ly. As you can see, is very minimalistic. I believe that I have done a video about how to install it alongside with the i3 window manager. If I found the video, I'm going actually to link it on the top right corner. So let's begin. I'm going to bring up my virtual machine. I hope the font is large enough so you can see it. So to install lightdm, since it's available on the official repository, all you have to do just type sudo pacman-sy lightdm. And once you install it, you need to enable it via systemd. Enable lightdm service. Keep in mind that if you have already installed a different display manager, you need to disable it. So for that one, just change the enable to disable, then pass your display manager, and then you should be good to go. So now let's reboot it and see whether the lightdm is going to load or no. So we expected the lightdm to load, but as you can see, it failed to start. This is pretty straightforward and simple to fix. The default lightdm package doesn't give you any theme or greeter. As a result of it, you need to install it, because lightdm doesn't work without a greeter. If you are unfamiliar with lightdm or you are new to lightdm, I highly recommend you to start with the default theme. So fortunately, default theme is also available in the official repository. So what you can do, sudo pacman-sy lightdm-gtk-greeter. So this is the default greeter or theme, and just install that package as well, and then we can reboot it. The reason that I decided to replicate this issue is because I have seen many people make that mistake, and I decided actually to replicate it to show you how to fix it. There's nothing wrong with the lightdm itself. And now we should be able to see the lightdm is loading up. So this is what we have here. Okay, so let me log in and then reduce the zoom. So okay, let me put it to 100, go full screen. Okay, now that is better. So I'm going to open this terminal so I can zoom it as well. All right, so the lightdm configurations are stored under etc lightdm directory, and you can modify these configuration files for customizations. But before that, let me talk about which files do we need to change. You can skip the accession keys users if you are not really familiar with the lightdm. The one that you need to change slightly is lightdm-conf. This is the global configuration, and this one you need to change it only when you want to switch the greeter. You want to switch to a different greeter rather than the default one, then you need to actually modify this one to point to a new greeter or to your customized greeter. But if you want to change just the settings of the greeter, you need to actually modify the greeter specific file. So in our case, the default greeter is GTK greeter, so we need to modify that one. So let's have a look on the file, see how it is look like. So this is all the comments on how you can change it and on the instructions, but the part that you need to change is under the greeter section. So everything here is commented out, and this is a default one. I didn't modify anything here. So let's say you can change the background, you can change the theme name, font, the position of the greeter, etc, etc. So let's just, for the sake of this tutorial, let's modify the background and add a background so that we don't see a blank or black background. So I have a file under my download directory. So this is a background file, and it's a cute picture of two golden retriever dogs. So this is of course it's not showing fully, but there is another dog there as well. So we are going to set this one as a background of the greeter. So for that one, the recommended approach is to copy the background file to the /user share pix maps. So this is the destination that we should copy the file to. So sudo cp background to here, and now the file is there. So now I'm going to modify the greeter file to point to this background. So lightdm greeter, of course I have to do win, and now I'm going to uncomment this part and point to the file pix maps background.jpg. So now I have set the background. So there are two ways that I can see the customization take place. One way, the easiest way, is to just reboot my system. But for trivial things like changing background or theme, I don't need to reboot my system. Instead of, I can utilize a tool that is shipped with the lightdm. It's called dm tool. So you can just type help, and then you can basically switch to the greeter to see how the changes look like. So in this case, switch, let me bring it up to greeter, and now it is going to load the greeter again, and as you can see, the background is set properly. One word about dm tool is that if you change something more than theming, you need to reboot it. This dm tool won't work. For example, if you switch your greeter, then you cannot use dm tool to see that how a new greeter look like. Once you set it, you have to really reboot your system. Afterwards, you see the changes, and you see the changes that are taking place. So this is about changing the default greeter settings. It's pretty easy and straightforward. Now let's move to the installing a new greeter. So there are a bunch of greeters you can install, whether through the official repository or via AUR. The one that I really like is the Slick greeter. It's actually based on Unity greeter, and I do believe it's created by Linux Mint community. And this is how the greeter looks like. It's pretty cool. I would say it looks much better than the default greeter. So let's install this one, and later on we are going to also customize this greeter as well. So since this one is not available in the official repository, I have to install it via AUR. So for that one, I'm going to use EA lightdm-slick greeter. Yes, remove the dependency, no change. And now it is going to install. So it requires compiling the source code and then installation. It is going to take a while. I'm going to pause the video, and once it's done, I will resume. Okay, installation of the Slick greeter has finished. Now let's set the Slick greeter as a default greeter and see how it is going to look like. For that one, we need to edit this time the lightdm global configuration file, which is lightdm-conf file, and then we have to go to a section which is called star, and here we have to find a setting, or we can add the setting if it doesn't exist, called greeter session, which is here. You just uncomment it, then set the greeter name. In our case would be lightdm-slick greeter. Once we have done that, we have to reboot it this time, because we cannot use dm tool when we switch greeter. And afterwards we should be able to see the Slick greeter loading up instead of GTK greeter. And as you can see, now the Slick greeter is loading up. So let's try to set a background for this Slick greeter as well, because the setting is a bit tricky. So if I go to lightdm configuration, you see that the Slick greeter does not have any configuration file. So don't worry, we can just basically create one. So for that one, what we can do, we can just like copy the lightdm-gtk-greeter and then name it slick greeter.conf. Okay, and now let's actually edit the slick greeter.conf file. I'm going to simply remove the comments here, and then I keep this as I'm going to remove here this one as well, because I'm going to focus on the background only. So here, when it comes to the tricky parts, I have to do sudo first. Okay, so here it comes to the tricky part. When it comes to the Slick greeter, if you have to change this section, right? You have to capitalize the G. If you don't do it, basically the changes won't take place at all. So make sure that when it comes to the greeter section, just capitalize the G, then everything else should be alright. So let's try actually with the DM tool, what it was, help, switch to greeter. Let's see whether it works or not. And as you can see, now the Slick greeter has a background color, and it looks good, right? So somebody might say, hey, I do not really want to go and make changes in the configuration. It's just too much work. Is there a tool that I can just change stuff via graphical user interface? Well, yes, of course exists, but there is a small caveat for it. So unfortunately, when it comes to the customizing greeter, you need to install a different tool for more or less each greeter. The default greeter has a different tool, and also the Slick greeter has a different tool. So let me show you what I mean. So if you want to change the default greeter, you have to install this package from official Arch repository, lightdm-gtk-greeter-settings. So once you install it, basically you can just run it via root. So in my case, I'm just going to run it like this from my terminal. Then basically I can change the settings of the GTK greeter, not the Slick greeter. And I'm going to show you that is not going to work. So this is the background of the dog background. So now I'm going to switch to the Arch background, right? And this one, if I save it and I close, and if I switch my greeter, the changes won't take place. So let me show you what I mean. So now you see still the background is a dog background, right? So because the lightdm-gtk-greeter-settings, it only works with the GTK greeter. And now if I, for example, open the GTK greeter-settings config file, you can see that basically it sets the background to the Arch Linux PNG, right? So this is when it comes to the GTK or the default greeter. If you want to change it, just install the lightdm-gtk-greeter. If you want to customize your Slick greeter, you need to actually use a AUR, and for that one it's called lightdm-settings. And once you install this package, basically you can then configure or customize your Slick greeter via a graphical user interface tool. So let me install this one and then I'm going to show you. So this is I would say is a bit of a bummer, because for example, if you change your greeter, then most probably you need to install a different tool if you want to customize it via UI. And this one, it is going just to customize the Slick greeter for you, nothing else. And as you can see, it's pointing to this background here now, right? And let me, for example, change a bit of stuff. Let's say, for example, I'm going to add a second to my clock as well, right? So %s, then I'm going just to close it. So the changes should be taken place already, and I can double check it by opening the Slick greeter config, and as you can see, it added the clock format here, right? So and I can just switch to greeter, and then now my clock has a second here as well. So again, just to recap very quickly, if you want to customize your GTK or the default greeter, lightdm, GTK, light of course, lightdm-gtk-greeter-settings. This is going to customize GTK or default greeter. Okay, and then when it comes to the Slick greeter, then you need to install lightdm-settings. So this is going to be used when it comes to the changing the Slick greeter. And this is the, I would say, as I have said, this is the caveat, this is the bummer of modifying your greeter via a UI tool. So that's all for this video. As always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a great time. Cheers.